The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans. It is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. The Ride Home Rants podcast wants to thank you for listening and let everybody know that we do offer monthly subscriptions to help support the show in other ways other than listening and downloading each episode. What you will get with each subscription is you will get bonus episodes that aren't released to everybody. You will also have a chance to ask me anything each and every month where I will put out a special episode just to answer your questions. You will also get more exclusive content that is not released to everybody. To subscribe to the show, go and click on the link in the description of this episode, and I look forward to your added support and to help us keep this show going. The Ride Home Rants podcast is also brought to you by Buddy's Beard Care. Buddy's Beard Care provides premium men's grooming products at an affordable price. Products are made in Ohio, and Buddy's Beard Care supports local. The majority of our supplies are from other Ohio-based companies. You can find them on social media at Buddy's Beard Care or online at buddysbeardcare.com. Use the promo code BONO15 and he will save you 15%. I've been using these products for a little over 6 months now, and my beard has never felt healthier. It has never grown faster, and according to my wife, it has never felt softer. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by former guest of the show in Matt Landowski in Sweet Hands Sports. Elevate their game with Sweet Hands Sports. Our sports gloves are designed for champions, providing ultimate grip and durability. Achieve greatness with every match. Choose Sweet Hands Sports for the winning edge. Grip your victory at sweethandsports.com. Use the promo code BONO10 and he will save you 10%. He has sent me a complimentary pair of golf gloves. They are so comfortable, durable, and breathable. You won't find a better pair of gloves out there. Again, sweethandsports.com, promo code BONO10. Lastly, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Deemed Fit, a clothing company from first responders for first responders. These products are so comfortable. They look great. They have great messages on them. They are provided to support first responders, especially those who worked through COVID. All of the proceeds are going to helping veterans and first responders with their mental and physical health. This is a great cause. I support anything that has to do with our first responders and our veterans. Again, deemedfit.co, promo code Mike Bono will save you 20%. Now, let's start the show. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is, as always, your host, Mike Bono. I have a great guest for us today. He is going to round out everyone that we have talked to up at Upgraded Industries. He is the owner of the gym up there, and it is DJ Jacobucci joins the show. DJ, thanks for joining, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, my man.
Hey, not a problem at all. Like I said earlier, we've had all the fighters on, starting with Tony, the Latin assassin, Tortolisi, went through a lot of your coaches, so it's nice to finally get the man behind everything here at Upgraded Industries there.
The man of many hats, some of which I don't want to wear, I suppose.
Hey, as most business owners will tell you, that's typical for sure, having a bunch of hats to wear that you don't want to wear. But first and foremost, how do you balance? I believe you have 2 young boys yourself. How do you balance the dad life with everything else that's going on with the gym?
I actually have identical twins, and they wrestle all over the country. They're very, 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 very good. In the recent years, I've been lucky to have Billy and to have Luke and to have now Tony, since he's retired, stepping onto the coaching staff, because now I have the availability. Now that my sons are a little bit older, to be able to go away and do things with them. So those guys are clutch for me. Like I said, the man in many hats. It's a role. It's hard. But I have to prioritize. Obviously, my kids come first before anything, even before my business. So, I try to prioritize that. But if it's a random tournament my sons are wrestling in and one of my guys got a title fight, I'm going to the title fight, and my boys understand. So
Right.
it's certain days, certain times that guys just know, I won't be there, but they know what's expected. And obviously, you see by the results, they listen pretty well.
Absolutely. I was at Tony's title fight there in Mountaineer. It's kind of how we got connected. It was great to see him, win the title, even though he did, retire right after that. But, it was still an awesome fight. And for someone who says he doesn't have that good of hands, I think he's the most modest of the guys that I've talked to from there, because I believe he got that win by knockout, if my memory serves me correctly.
And that whole thing of him not having hands got started by one of his bitter opponents. Tony shouldn't even have taken the one fight he took. We told him not to. The doctors told him not to. He was like 6 months off of getting an ACL repair. And he's just a stubborn, tough-ass Mexican, so we gutted it out. And the kid bitched about, oh, he just wrestled me. He doesn't have hands. I assure you, Tony, when I was fighting, was my number one training partner for a long time. And we threw down quite a bit. So he absolutely has hands, but, he's never had to really show them. And I think his last one, his way out, he said, all right, well, let's just silence the talk.
Absolutely. What a way to go out with a knockout victory to win the title.
Right.
For sure. But like I said in the intro, you are the owner of Upgraded Industries. Tell the listeners about, that, how you got there and how you got started with that business.
So I started as a personal training business as I was a young firefighter. Basically, I was kind of getting hosed in my divorce, and you can only work so many jobs before, you're never getting ahead. So I started a personal training company, and then I grew that into the gym. Well, before all that, I fought through Strong Style. I fought through Leo Keglovic was my boxing coach. He's coaches Luke now. So I had been fighting for years. I've been wrestling for years, and that was my passion. And I couldn't get back to my passion just yet. So I retired from fire service, and I concentrated heavily on building the gym. I got the fitness center side going, and then that basically started funding all the stuff that was my passion, which was MMA, jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, all that. And that's kind of how it all started coming together. It was a lot. It was kind of one of those sink or swim situations, because I resigned from the fire department and I dumped my pension into the gym. So,
right. That's betting on yourself.
That's either saying I'm going to be poor or this is going to work.
Absolutely. I get it, man. As a comedian myself, there's that whole sink or swim type of mentality that you have to have. Like, if I don't have shows, I'm not, signed by an agency or anything. I don't have a manager. I don't have an agent or anything like that. So if I don't have shows and I'm not getting paid for comedy, it's all on me. And it's kind of like this with taking the leap of faith and, leaving the fire service to chase your dream and to chase your passion, which is, kudos to you. I give anybody credit that's willing to chase down something that they're passionate about, for sure.
I tell everyone it's a terrifying first step, but once you do it, you'll never look back.
Right. Absolutely. So have you always been like a combat sports fan, or did you kind of like wrestle growing up or anything like that? So like, how did you get into the fight scene?
So I grew up wrestling, and I was little. I used to be a little dude, so I got picked on, and I used to just scrap. I get in fights, and I did fairly well. I had a little bit of a, not so great upbringing, but it is what it is. I stayed enough out of trouble that I could still wrestle. I love wrestling. I was obsessed with it. I didn't have the means that my sons have now. So, my wrestling career was lackluster. So after that, I decided, well, I want to get into MMA. I remember watching like the original UFC tapes from like Blockbuster Video. I remember seeing like the Canadian Mounties busted in, and I was like, oh my God, I love this shit. So I just started training. Ironically enough, I ran into some dudes I knew that were just starting to dabble in jiu-jitsu, and like I was a short, stocky, explosive wrestler, and they were all tall grapplers. So, like, dude, let's learn this stuff. It was cool. I started getting it after high school, fought quite a bit, and I kind of went semi-retired when I had my sons. I came back for a few, and then that was it. I've always loved it. Took karate as a kid, boxing, all that stuff. I just was always obsessed with some sort of martial arts and some sort of like structure and schedule, along with like the weightlifting and all that stuff. Being strong was cool, but being strong and being a total badass was even better.
100%. Yeah. I took martial arts when I was, teenager and all that. I talked about it with all the fighters. Got a black belt in Taekwondo. Probably should have stuck with it, but it was, as a 15-year-old, you get that one tough loss that I had, and it shook me right out of the fight game, for sure. But after it was fight number 29, and I was 28-0 at that point in time, and ended up finishing out 28-1. And that was the last fight for me because I got knocked out, and I did not like that feeling. That was at 15, took a shot right to the ego, and just completely...
Ego death is the best thing that can happen to a man, though. You don't really truly find out who you are until your ego can die.
Oh yeah, it helps me today as a comedian because I got knocked out at a big Taekwondo tournament in front of probably 1,000 people. And
yeah, well, we all been there. We all lost in front of our family and friends, shit the bed,
right. And now it's just like, okay, if I bomb on stage, like who gives a shit? I've been knocked out in front of thousands of people. Like who cares? And it just helps me push forward in the comedy career in martial arts and having that discipline to stick after it after 13 years of doing it and still being considered an up and comer. So. It's not for the faint of heart, for sure. Like I'm sure the fight game isn't, because I think people just think like, oh, you get a black belt, you're automatically a pro fighter. It's like, no, you have to go through the amateur scene, pretty extensively.
You have to clear house before you're going to get, if you want to be a legitimate pro, you have to beat every top amateur and top everything around. You got to win everything until there's no more to win as an amateur. That's the one thing that I tell my guys, they're required to have 3 belts before they go pro. Yeah. 3 different organizations, preferably. Tony, has he was a different story. We just kept getting, we weren't going to turn him down. It is what it is. But yeah, you should be cleaning out the amateur ranks before you decide to go pro. I think a lot of these new age kids, they rush to turn pro, and it's just not. They need to not.
Right. Yeah, and like I said before, we've had a lot of your coaches and fighters on. How did you find these guys? These guys are phenomenal. How did you find them? And
they are. They really, it's like it's our own merry band of misfits. It's like dysfunctional family that you can't help but love. So I do. Every one of them ended up being like a training situation. So back in my old gym on Sundays, we used to scrap. So we would wrestle. Dude, we had like the lowest ranking kid in our room at that time was Jacob Lagoa, who was like a 16-year-old kid, which I don't know if you're familiar with Jacob, but he's cleaning up the scene right now in grappling and MMA. Kid's a beast. He was a beast at like 16. He was like multiple time state champ. But anyways, we would wrestle on Sundays for like 2-3 hours. We would just get any dudes would come in if you were good, and we would scrap. When my buddy Ragu brought Tony in, and I was like, oh man, this kid can fucking wrestle. All right. So him and I were scrapping, back and forth a couple of weeks. I mean, just ended up becoming boys. He's like probably one of my best friends, on top of being, one of my best fighters. He's a good dude. He's a little out there, but you gotta be to do what we do.
Kind of have to be a fighter. You kind of can't be this even-keeled guy if you're going to be. I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah, most people don't say, "Hey, this guy that's trained to kick my ass, I'm going to lock myself in a cage with him."
Right.
It's not a normal thought, I suppose.
Right.
And then Billy, I met. I was getting ready for fights, and I needed someone that actually had good stand-up. We used to do this thing in the old place. It was around like the COVID era, so we had like a secret fight club because I defied all that bullshit. So guys would come in and we would spar, and there was nothing else to do. So we'd have guys there that we'd be sparring for 2-3 hours. Billy came in, and him and I could flow really well. He moved good, and I was like, oh shit. It's like, I like this dude. So I had always had him in my mind. And then when I move into the new place and I realized, well, this place is double the size of the other one. How am I going to manage? He was the first and the only person I called to come over and help me with the striking program. And then inevitably I just gave it to him because he deserves it.
Yeah. I mean, after talking to Billy, he's definitely, I could just, tell with his passion and how he talked about how he trains his fighters and everything like that. And even how he talked about Tony, getting them ready for that last title fight at Mountaineer. You have a good one in your striking coach there. And
I absolutely do. And sometimes I got to remind the guys that because they give him shit because he expects a lot. And you know what? He should.
Yeah. I mean, every good coach should expect, the best out of all of their fighters. That's always been a mindset of mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I don't understand people that just, when they have this, they're pushing me harder, so they obviously don't like me. No, it means they like you more than you think. It's because they're pushing you to see what you can't see yourself.
I used to tell the young guys in the fire service, I said, hey, you don't got to ever worry about if we like you or not unless we stop talking to you.
Yeah.
Because then when we stop giving a shit, then you're done. And that goes the same with coaches. I've had my instances where I want to grab some of these guys and choke them, but they also have to take a step back and realize how I was at some of their ages as well.
Right.
So I'm persistent, but my persistence only goes so far. I can't make you do everything, and I don't hold hands and I refuse. You're expected to get the workload done. And if you don't, that's on you, man.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's how it should be. I think you should have your training regimen in place. These guys should be, mature enough and disciplined enough to be able to do it on their own without having somebody standing over their shoulders and watching every move that they make. I love that attitude.
Unfortunately, the new age, a lot of these, they do need their hands held. And that's just, maybe there's people that can do that. I don't, that's just not how I do things. Not even with my youth wrestlers, there's no level of which I baby people. That just doesn't do that. Does people a disservice in the real world.
It really does. I absolutely think that. But being the fighter and watching all the fights, that you have and growing up in the fight game, what are your thoughts on some of the all-time old greats of the UFC, like Ken Shamrock, Dan the Beast Cerrone, and Roy Gracie?
I'm going to catch a lot of shit for this because of his current mental state. BJ Penn was my dog. Dude, yep. Baby J was the man. Like, that was my favorite fighter. That was a dude that I was like, I want to be like that guy. Now, not so much. But no, that was the guy that I thought was the true pioneer. Matt Hughes, I actually got the pleasure of training with Hughes out at the Militich camp. I went out there many, many, many years ago. That was awesome. Hughes, BJ, St. Pierre, those were the dudes. Gracie was an innovator. Yes, I have my own thoughts on all of them. He was the innovator. He was the only one that was doing jiu-jitsu and per se jiu-jitsu versus the catch wrestling, which the Shamrock brothers were doing. They were great. That wasn't really intriguing to me. I liked Tank Abbott because he was nuts and just wanted to throw down. But BJ Penn was the first true mixed martial artist that I was like, this dude's the shit.
Yeah, I think GSP is what did it for me. George St. Pierre, watching him fight and coming up, and just the way he went about the fight game was a little bit different than most guys that just wanted to stand and bang in the middle of the octagon.
Well, that's
which is entertaining.
It is entertaining, but you know what? It's the longevity of your career is not such. You can't be getting punched in the head time and time and time again and expect a solid quality of life.
Right. Absolutely, and I think he had a different approach to it. And what blew my mind too as well is to learn that Joe Rogan actually taught him his spinning back kick.
Yes, on a punching bag in a gym.
Yeah.
Yes. Just fucking around too. That's what's awesome.
It blows my mind. And people don't give Joe Rogan the credit that he deserves for being the martial artist that he actually is.
I would not want to fight Joe Rogan.
No.
I've seen videos of him just murdering a tie bag, and you watch him roll. He's good. I just think that's someone that also, there's people that can be a complete badass, but they don't want to fight, and that's fine. Fighting is not for everybody. There's a mental side of it that some people just don't want to endure themselves in, and that's okay. And that's where I think a lot of the young fighters, they need to figure that out. Some guys think they want to fight, and then they learn, I don't want to really fight.
Yeah, I think everyone thinks they want to because of the popularity of the UFC and mixed martial arts now, and then they get hit in the face once, and it kind of deters them from wanting to
Correct. Like the old Tyson line, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. But
100%.
that's very true. I mean, I always tell my guys, you guys have no idea how nice you have it. Back in the day, I trained a strong style. I was trained with Stipe and Joe Hyland and Forrest Petz, Jeff Cox, like all the Cleveland OGs that were just absolute murderers. The way the Marcus had us train and sometimes wasn't the most conventional, but it made you tough as hell. And my guys now, obviously we do some smarter things, but there's a time and a place for the toughness. But yeah, I mean,
it's a different game, but I gotta ask, you guys ever settle any like little debates in the Octagon in the training gym? Like if you're having a debate with Tony or anything, like, all right, let's wrestle for it. You know what I mean? Like that's just this. Let's get on the mat.
We endlessly talk shit to each other. That's like we have a group chat where literally we'll just all talk shit to each other all day long. So it's like anytime, all the time.
Phenomenal.
Like you could be in mid conversation with somebody else, and next thing you know, your feet are going over your head and you're getting slammed. So, or you're talking and you just get a leg kicked. It's but it's good. We bust balls. Like I say, it's a dysfunctional frat house full of dudes that are pretty tough with a lot of tattoos.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal. That's a phenomenal workplace. I can tell you that.
I mean, for the most part, we don't really have. I mean, there's never been too many beefs. We've had a couple where we've had to settle, but neither party was right. They were both wrong. But for the most part, these guys do get along pretty well. There's always a competition edge. Tony and I just fought the other day for like 6 minutes straight, and neither of us could get a takedown.
Wow.
And we both afterwards were just exhausted, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Dude, there's difference between wrestling pace and jiu-jitsu pace. Like a hard wrestling pace for that long is tough as shit, But yeah, I mean, the competitive edge is always there. I mean, this is what we do, And I always tell people, so just because I don't fight anymore doesn't mean I don't train. I still love to train. Like that's just part of my life, and I guess that comes back to like the GSP thing. GSP was a complete and total mixed martial artist. Whether he was ever going to fight again or not, other than him stepping into the octagon, nothing in his life was changing.
No.
He was still going to stick on those paths. He was still going to maintain the healthy lifestyle. And he's still going to do what he's going to do. Just longer in the cage, getting paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars for it.
Right. And he knew how to get that longevity. He knew what to do. And I think that's why his career lasted as long as it did, because everybody else wanted to be that tough brute and, get the fans excited by standing and just throwing caution to the wind, the chant. Yep. Throwing caution to the wind in the middle of the octagon.
I can't back Chandler anymore after that last one. I just can't.
Yeah. I missed the fight, and I'm kind of glad I did.
Dude, a part of me died with Michael Chandler that night, I feel.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, no way. The guy's physical attributes and skill set that he possesses and then just never uses blows my mind.
Yeah. I saw the highlights of it on SportsCenter the next day, but it was just like, really?
Yeah, it was it's a pretty solid, clear ass whooping for sure.
Yeah. Just from the short little couple second clips that I got on SportsCenter, it was just like, yeah, he got his ass beat the whole time, didn't he?
Yeah, it was pretty wild to watch.
Yeah. And so, we've had a lot of other people on this show, athlete-wise, from college football players to track athletes, soccer, baseball, basketball, you name it. We've had all these former athletes on here. Have you ever seen any other types of former athletes wanting to get into MMA at your gym after their college careers are done?
Yes. So ironically enough, with Chris, we basically have like a Lake Erie Wrestling feeder league. All those wrestlers usually end up coming if they stay. If they stay in Ohio, they usually come and they train jiu-jitsu with us, and some get into MMA. Um, we actually have two DPTs inside my gym, and they train semi-pro as well as pro, and then upcoming high school basketball players. And a couple of those guys joke, but none of them have ever been really serious. We have people come in and out. Usually they don't stay, but ex-football players that are come in, big solid heavyweights, they'll roll for a couple months and then they'll move away. But majority right now, it's just been the wrestlers. We get a lot of college wrestlers that after that, like, what do we do? Well, fuck, MMA and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that would be as a collegiate wrestler. What to do after that career is over. Because you still have that instinct to want to fight in you.
Oh, it's compete. You still want to compete.
Yeah, I'll say, hell, I was a swimmer from the time I was 8 all the way through college, and even at 36 years old with the bum shoulder, I still have the itch to get in the pool. I can't anymore because literally my my body won't allow me to do what I need to do in the pool. But I still have that now, so I can only imagine at that age, like, okay, well,
I
shit,
mean, you've
man.
done something your whole life, and
Yeah.
then all right, hey, well, you're done now.
Yeah,
Like,
and
what do you mean I'm done? I don't. I've practiced every day of my life for 7 days a week, 2 times a day.
yep.
And now I do what?
Yeah, that mine was to get on stage and make people laugh. Apparently, it was the next step for me. Just a pull.
Hey, to each his own. Whatever works, my man.
Gotta after the unfortunate shoulder injury, it was just like, yeah, this swimming's just not going to happen for me, and um, just became a goofball after that. Apparently,
Laughter is the best form of medicine. That's what they say, right?
they say that for sure. I agree wholeheartedly after doing it for 13 years and hearing people coming up after shows and telling me, they're having a better day just from being at the show, and they feel better after being able to be made laugh for a little bit.
And that could be life changing to some individuals.
It was, and I've told it before. I've had one of the most rewarding shows that I had was at North Central Correctional Institute, where we got to perform for the inmates. There was 400 inmates that got to come to the show, and for 2 hours we got to make them laugh. And they came up to all of us after the show and said, "You know what? You just gave me 6 more months of peace in here, because I got to feel like I wasn't locked up for 2 hours," and that was more rewarding than the pay I got for that show.
Yeah.
And I was 12 years into comedy after I did that. Hadn't signed like a single autograph, and I signed 400 autographs that day because every single one of them came up and were just that thankful that they wanted us to autograph something for them. And that's why I keep doing what I'm doing, because people were like, "Oh, well, there's not a lot of money in comedy to start out with." I was like, I don't give a shit about the money right now.
So many people chase money, and that's why the world's so sad.
Yeah.
Money's the root of all fucking evil. It really is.
Yeah.
There's passion should drive things. And, passion doesn't pay the bills. I get it. I'm a realist, but if your sole focus is money, usually it's fucked from the get go.
100%. 100%. I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Do I know if I keep doing what I'm doing, the money will eventually come? Yeah. So I'll just take my time and it'll come when it comes. But that being said, there's a lot of, great promoters out there in both the fight game and, comedy too as well. But do you think Dana White is one of the best pro sports promoter that you've seen lately?
I used to defend Dana heavily. And anymore, it seems like the last 5 years, the UFC has done a lot of things that give me boxing vibes. The reason boxing died is because of so many promoters and executives and just no, legitimacy in the belts, and just the money watered it down. And I feel like the UFC is headed that way, and it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I'm a huge UFC fan.
Just even as of recently, the whole shit with John Jones, like,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Aspinall's sitting on the shelf. They're not paying him for it. Whether it's to sell fights or not, time is their enemy, man, especially if you're in MMA. shit could go awry, and your body can only hold up for so long. I just, I don't know. I think Dana White's kind of a piece of shit right now, if I'm being honest.
Hey, that's what we look for on the show is total
Hopefully
honesty.
that doesn't affect any of my guys in the future.
Yeah.
But I think he's making some questionable choices that I don't necessarily care for.
Hey,
But he's a multi-billionaire, so hey, what the fuck do I know, right?
Right. It is what it is. I mean, everyone's allowed to have their opinion. That's the beauty of the country that we live in, for sure. Is that, like I said, I'm a huge UFC fan. I kind of see where you're coming from with that, with it turning into boxing, because I was a big boxing fan growing up, because that was like the combat
everybody
sport,
was, right? That was the original. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, so I'm older than you, but I mean, we're around close enough age to where, yes, boxing was the only thing. People used to pack bars for Tyson fights and shit like that, and that was a big deal. But then what happened? Turned into a shit show. I mean, Don King is a fucking scumbag of all scumbags. And then it got watered down, and now there's, so many different titles and this and that. Are there some tough-ass dudes still boxing? Absolutely, but I just think it's gotten pulled in the wrong directions, as you can see. I mean, go to a local boxing event, usually subpar anymore. It's because no one really cares. MMA is taking over, but MMA is kind of going to probably start heading that same direction too, unfortunately.
Do you think that's just the nature of what happens with combat sports, like with what happened with boxing, and now seeing the mixed martial arts kind of starting to head that direction? Do you think that's kind of like the end all be all for combat sports?
So does every empire crash? Is that what you're asking?
Essentially, yeah.
I don't think it has to. I think if you don't learn from your past mistakes, but also, we're in a generation of everyone wants everything now. So everyone wants these demands. And, if you've done one, you got to do the other. It's kind of, it's very self-destructing. I think combat sports are becoming self-destructive. The monopoly's there, it's been there, but then even the monopoly is going to drop eventually. It sucks. I think a lot of things are wrong with combat sports. I think if you're in the UFC, you should be getting health care. Now, do I know Dana does a lot of nice shit for people? Yes, absolutely. There's a lot that he does do, but there's a lot that he doesn't do. It's greed. Greed is the enemy, and that's kind of where it's headed. I hope it doesn't. I hope that it changes, but
yeah, I do too.
The signs are there that it's not.
Right. I see where you come from, and I'm with you. I hope it doesn't. My wife and I look forward to Saturday night fight nights with the UFC. I'm the one who got her into combat sports when we met. I was watching old UFC events, and she never really knew what it was. Now she's with me on the couch every Saturday as we look forward to fight nights and getting to watch that. It's something that we enjoy for sure, and I hope that doesn't get taken away.
No, I don't know that it would be in the super near future, but it's on a very, very, it's on the up, and the money is there, and I just think the money could be used to a little bit better to protect the fighters. The fighters do absolutely need paid. If some people realize what some of these fighters were making in the past, here's your $3,000. What? So, yeah, I mean, I think it probably will fail. I hope that it doesn't. I hope that mistakes are corrected from, things that we've seen in the past.
Yeah. I hope you're right on that. And, yeah, I mean, do you see anything coming up for upgraded, industries up there? Any new fighters coming up, or any fights that you guys have that are coming up that you kind of want to get out there for everybody?
Both of my guys that had title fights, I'm not going to say their names because the other promoters are in in negotiations, but both of my guys that had scheduled title fights now have no opponents.
Gotcha.
So that's neat. For one of them, it's been a consistent problem. We're just trying to find them fights, and it's just not happening. Yeah, kind of sucks. We do get some new talent in. We have some smaller guys that I'm looking forward to with some college wrestling experience. We never had too many like 135ers. We got a new kid in. He's really tough. I'm not gonna say his name yet, but you'll see him. I like him. I think he's got a hell of a potential. I don't know if he's really mean yet, but we'll find out.
You can see if he has that mean streak in him yet.
Yeah. Yeah, we get some kids that come in, but again, like the conversation we had earlier, everyone wants to do it until they realize what it entails and at the level of which we expect. So
I got you. Absolutely. I definitely understand that. I know the fight game's kind of like, I don't want to say the comedy game, but it is. With shows can be few and far between. You could be booked for a show, and then the next minute it gets pulled out from underneath you. You're not sure why, but it happens a lot more than people think. I've had to, refund ticket prices for people that went on and pre-bought tickets because got pulled out from underneath me, and then what do you do? You're kind of in scramble mode, and I think it builds character for sure.
Yeah, you know what? And there's just like I always try to say that God has a plan, and and every time that these guys get a fight pulled from them, I just feel like, all right, well, that's more time that we have to work on this because nobody's perfect, and we all have the areas to work on, and they all have different areas to work on, right? So then
Right.
we do focus on those, but there's a time and a place to where you need to have that. You need to have that dress rehearsal, right? The amateurs, that's the dress rehearsal,
Right.
But you need to have that because you need to know what it's like. Like for instance, like my sons, before they wrestle their season, I make them wrestle 60 preseason matches at least. Now it was this past year was probably doubled, but because by the time that they get to where it matters, there's no thinking. It's just reacting. This is what we do, right? So while I do utilize the time that these guys get fights pulled from them, I also miss that dress rehearsal with them, which
Right.
they need equally as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a catch-22 on that one, because you need that mat time, we'll call it, and that cage time fighting, but you also need, the training time to hone in on the skill. So it's definitely a good balance that you need to find for sure.
Yeah, so we have a lot of our guys. We have them, compete in grappling as well as boxing and MMA and kickboxing. We kind of try to throw them in everything because, like for these instances, it just again now happened. Shit gets pulled out from us. Well, all right, well, let's go take this then. Let's stay active. Let's keep doing this. All right, let's work on this area of our game. And then, in that sense, it's almost like a relief for some of them because it's like, all right, well, I'm not doing MMA right now. I'm only focusing and competing in this area of MMA. So let's just go do this. So.
Right.
We make it work, but it still sucks.
Yeah. No, I definitely get it. It definitely sucks when you get something pulled from me, especially when you're pumped up and you're ready to go for that, for sure. But DJ, we are running down here near the end of the episode. I got to get this last segment in before we round out the show here, and that is the Fast Fitty 5. 5 random questions from the wonderful manager of the podcast, Johnny Fitty Falcone. And these are kind of rapid fire, but you can elaborate if you need to. And DJ, these have nothing to do with what we've been talking about for the entirety of
you're saying we're about to get a little weird.
It's going to get really weird. I'll tell you this. And he sent these to me today. So this is going to be, he never sends these to me till the day we record. He does not want me to see them either. So it's a shock for all of us. And it's a nice, fun way that we're going to end the show. So if you are ready, we'll get started.
I'm ready when you are.
All righty. Question number 1. Should you wash your hair first or last in the shower?
First.
First, 100% on that one. Yeah, definitely first. Question number 2. Is hot sauce on steak a real thing?
I mean, yeah, but that's got to be a shitty steak.
That's a terrible steak. No, I pride myself on my steak. You put hot sauce on my steak, I'll punch you in the throat. Question number 3. Best day to cut grass is?
One where it's dry.
Yeah.
Because as of lately, that's been never.
Nah, yeah, I have a jungle in my backyard, and there's just no dry days to do it. So I definitely understand that for sure. Question number 4. Harder job, professional roofer or professional plumber?
I know both, and Billy's going to be pissed at me, but professional roofer, that roofing jobs suck.
Yeah. Yeah, Yeah, I know a couple roofers too. That's not a fun job for sure.
That's a brutal job, man. Those guys
Yeah.
are nuts. They deserve to drink 2 cases of beer a day.
100%. 100%. And last question here. What is the most comfortable pair of shoes?
Vans, my checkered Vans, bro.
Your checkered.
Everyone will tell you I always rock those.
I haven't heard of Vans in a long time, man. That's so old school. I love it for sure. Oh, but DJ, that was the Fast 85. I feel like he took it a little easy on you on those ones because he definitely comes up with some weird questions for sure with that. And he texts me these questions all the time, and it's just literally him asking me these questions, like dead serious. And it's just the way his mind works, and we love it, and it's a fun way for us to kind of round out the episode. For sure. But DJ, I do give every guest this opportunity at the end of every show. If there's anything else you want to get out there, anything you want to promote, whether it's your gym, any of your fighters, anything like that, or if it's even just a good message, I'll give you about a minute and the floor is yours.
June 7th, Cage Grappling at our place. Come check it out, upgradedindustries.com. June 28th, golf outing. All the funds go to underprivileged kids that cannot afford to enter wrestling tournaments or get uniforms. I will buy them for them out of that fund. Chris Tragey has a title fight. Ron is supposedly supposed to have a title fight. June and July, Made Men, as well as, I can't remember the other promotion. I apologize. Other than that, come check us out. Thank you for having me on the show, my man.
Hey, not a problem at all. DJ, thank you for joining. That was it's a lot of fun to kind of round out the group there at Upgraded Industries and get
now
you on here.
Now the weirdness makes sense, right?
It does. I love it. I do. The guys were awesome. You're awesome. I'm going to definitely be following you guys. I follow everybody that comes on this show, no matter what they are, and I love watching your careers progress, and I can't wait to see what you and Upgraded do with all the talent that you have there. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. Again, I want to thank my guest, DJ Jacobucci, for joining the show. As always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend, tell a friend. If you didn't, tell them anyways. They might like it just because you didn't. That's going to do it for me, and I will see y'all next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Dubby Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rocket on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.